Right, good morning everyone. Today we are starting with revision of Act 1. I am going to do Macbeth Act 1 scenes 1, 2 and 3 in one video, and then another one for Act 1 scenes 4, 5 and 6 before I start then with the actual teaching of Act 1 scene 7. I hope you already have your Macbeth text with you because you need to refer back to it all the time. I hope by now that you can actually quote these or recite these quotes with me instead of just having to refer to your text. The first characters that we meet when the play starts are the witches. This is significant because it sets the mood for the influence of evil in the rest of the play. The witches announce that they will meet again. The question, in thunder, lightning, or in rain. Then they say they will meet when the battle is over. When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle is lost and won. Now, hurly-burly, the confusion, and when the battle is lost and won. How can the battle be lost and won? Some side will lose and one side will win. Some will lose soldiers, or all the parties will lose soldiers, but they will gain their territory, their independence. They will not be ruled by another king. The time before sunset, that will be ere the set of sun. Where will they meet? Upon the heath. Now, remember, they are at present on the heath. So they will come back and they will meet upon the heath again. And who will they meet with? They will meet Macbeth. They conclude the scene with these words: fair is foul, and foul is fair. What does that mean? They mean that which appears to be good or beautiful is actually foul, dirty, evil. That which is bad or evil is actually good. Now, please take note of these features. There are 3 witches. Remember the importance of the number 3 for the witches. The witches have familiars, animal companions, and we meet 2 of them here, Grimalkin, the cat, and Paddock, the frog, or toad. They use alliteration, which, together with a rhythm, makes us remember their words. Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Now remember the definition of the poetic device alliteration? The repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of stressed syllables. Okay, that is all for Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 1. Now, Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 2. Here we meet the King of Scotland, King Duncan, who is standing in a camp near the battlefield. He's waiting for news about the progress of the battle. With him, among others, are his 2 sons, Malcolm and Donovan. He sees a sergeant approaching, covered in blood. He hopes that the sergeant can tell them more, because he looks as though he was in the thick of the battle, because he's tired and he is bleeding. Malcolm recognizes him as the sergeant who saved him from being taken captive by the enemy. The sergeant reports about the first battle that it was difficult to say who would have the upper hand at first. MacDonald, the rebel leader, who hired soldiers, in other words mercenaries, from the Western Isles, or the Scottish forces. Now remember that simile that he used? The 2 armies were like tired, in other words, spent swimmers that clung to each other and restricted or choked their swimming skill, their art. So neither of the enemies could actually then fight properly. The battle ended when Macbeth, a Scottish thane, the Thane of Glamis, and one of the generals spectacularly cut open MacDonald from the nave to the chops and placed his head on their battlements, which was the custom in those days, to warn off anyone who would like to stand up against the king. The Scottish army had barely chased away the enemy when the Norwegian king, Sweno, began a fresh assault. Macbeth and Banquo were as little upset as a sparrow would upset an eagle or a hare would upset a lion. Here is another example of a simile. The sergeant leaves to get his wounds treated, and Ross arrives to continue the story. It seems as though the Norwegians, assisted by the traitor the Thane of Cawdor, were having a victory, and they made the Scottish people despair. The Norwegian banners flout the sky and fan our people cold. A metaphor then for them losing their courage. But Macbeth, like the bridegroom of the goddess of war, Belena, faced up to them and finally brought the victory to the Scottish. Sweno's penalty was he had to pay a fine of $10,000. King Duncan then orders Ross to see to it that Cawdor is executed, and he has to give the title Thane of Cawdor to Macbeth. He says, "No more that Thane of Cawdor shall deceive our bosom interest." This is irony, because he will be deceived by the new Thane of Cawdor again. The pronoun our that he uses here is the royal plural used by the king. In other words, actually he's saying God and I, as he is the representative of God on earth. That concludes then Act 1, Scene 2. Then, Act 1, Scene 3. It is now the end of the first day of the play. Now, who do we meet again in the scene? The witches. What is their purpose? To tempt Macbeth. We learn what they've been doing during the course of the day. And this proves they are malicious beings. Remember, the prefix mal means wrongful or bad. Remember Maleficent? Yes. The second witch tells how she has been killing pigs without any motivation for that, it seems. The first witch has placed a curse on a ship's captain, as the captain's wife refused to give her roasted chestnuts. Important. The curse involves that the captain will be unable to sleep. It foreshadows Macbeth's sleeplessness later on. The first witch then produces a ship's pilot's thumb with which they make up a charm. Macbeth arrives on the scene. His first words, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." These words immediately time into the witch's words in Scene 1. Notice the rhythmic effect. Iambic pentameter, remember? 5 groups of an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. And that sound is my dog. And remember, this is the natural rhythm of English speech. So, fair and foul a day I have not seen. Banquo is the first one to notice the witches. He says they are withered and wild in their attire. They then address Macbeth. with one truth and two prophecies. The truth, he is the Thane of Glass. The prophecies, Thane of Cawdor and King hereafter. Now remember the dramatic irony. Macbeth doesn't know anything about it. He does not know that he will become the Thane of Cawdor, but we, the audience, we already know that. And that is what dramatic irony entails. Banquo also demands a prophecy of the witches, but take note of his attitude. He makes it seem as though he does not believe they have the power to predict the future, whereas Macbeth is immediately intrigued. Banquo's prophecy that he gets, his children will be kings. Macbeth wants to know more, but the witches vanish into thin air. They are still standing there speaking in a dazed and confused fashion about what they heard from the witches, when Ross and Angus arrive on the scene. They are the messengers of the king there. Ross tells how grateful the king is to Macbeth, and Angus tells him that the king thanks them and summons them into his presence. Ross then carries out his order. He announces that Macbeth is now the Thane of Cawdor. Banquo is the first one to react. He states that he knows the origin of the prophecy of the witches must be evil. Can the devil speak true? When Macbeth responds that it cannot be true because the Thane of Cawdor is alive, Angus explains that the Thane of Cawdor admitted that he committed treason and that he will be executed. Now remember the image of clothing that recurs throughout the play. Why do you dress me in borrowed robes? The borrowed robes, then again, a metaphor. Remember, he's not actually going to wear the robes of the Thane of Cawdor. I mean, they would be very bloody after the battle. In any case, who would like to wear them? So, what it actually means is that the robes signify the title, and he feels it doesn't belong to him, it still belongs to Cawdor, and that's why he uses this image. Banquo warns Macbeth. The instruments of darkness tell us truths. Win us with honest trifles. Remember, a trifle is something unimportant. To betray us in the deepest consequence. While Banquo turns to speak to Ross and Angus, Macbeth, in an aside, says that the two truths are merely prologues to the kingly theme. Now remember, what is an aside? It is when a character reveals his thoughts and feelings to the audience out loud, while other characters on stage pretend not to hear him. What is a prologue? A prologue is an introduction, that which is said before the actual story. This is an image from stagecraft, which is also a recurring image throughout the play. As happy prologue to the imperial act. Imperial, the kingly act. Act then, stage. He starts thinking about becoming king, either by murdering him, which cares Macbeth witless, or wait for chance or luck to make him king. When Banquo comments that Macbeth looks distracted, Macbeth starts being dishonest. He lies. That is evidence that he's already been drawn in to the evil. He says he was thinking about things in the past, whereas we know he was considering the future. Act 1, Scene 3 of Macbeth done and dusted. May you have a wonderful day.